The reason I decided to do a program on informational interviews is that I had a client, somebody I didn't know, who'd been given my name, and when he called me up, you could tell from his voice that he was a little bit older. And after he was telling me about his background and what he had done, and then he said, you can probably tell I'm a little bit on the old side, and so there's a lot of discrimination. And I said, okay, listen, I'll see you next Tuesday, because I don't really like to belabor perceived barriers. I'm not saying it's not out there, but it's not helpful to talk about the reasons people are not hiring you exactly if it's something that you don't necessarily have control over. So, but I was looking forward to talking to him. So he came in. He spent many years as a recruiter, an executive recruiter, and so he certainly knew how to dress, even for a little informational interview with me, essentially. His shoes, you know how important shoes are. Shoes are really shiny, good looking. He's a nice looking man. He did tell me he's 72, and one of the things that I always tell you is that if you feel that age is an issue, don't talk like an old person. And my favorite example of that was, which most of you have heard before, was a guy that mock interviewed on our Thursday mock interview thing, who said, I'm afraid that age is one of my problems. And during the mock interview, one of the things he said was, I worked on computers when they were the size of this room. Okay, so anyway, but this man lives in Georgetown and had a lot of wonderful experience, wonderful skills, and I said, well, Georgetown is a bit of a problem because, number one, there's not a lot of industry, not a lot of business there. You've got the hospital, you've got Southwestern University, but you have Sun City, which is full of people like you, many of whom would love to go to work. That they don't want to just stand around the golf course all day, every day. They would like to be productive, and so you've got a lot of people in your same age group who are looking. And I said, have you done any informational interviews? And he said, yes, quite a few. And I said, so whom did you talk with? Who was on your list of people? And he said he talked to the head of the Chamber of Commerce, I think, and I can't remember everybody he talked to. And I said, so what sorts of questions did you ask them? And he said, well, I essentially just went there and said, do you know of anything? And that was it? Do you know of anything? Well, yeah, he said, but I haven't had any luck with any of those contacts at all. Nobody's been able to tell me about anything. And so I thought this might be a good opportunity to really talk to you about how to use an informational interview. It's an important skill to learn. One of the things that I teach in my Monday afternoon class, which is about job search strategies, we talk about networking, but one of the things we talk about is direct contact. Being a sort of proactive, going after the companies and people within those companies where you would like to work, and getting them to know who you are and what you can do for them. And I teach that there are at least 5 different ways that you can do that. And one is just dropping in and introducing yourself. That only works with certain kinds of companies, but with certain kinds of companies, that's a successful approach. And if you know the name of the hiring manager, which you can usually find through LinkedIn or through an article in the Business Journal or something, then you might be able to call them, get their direct line, and then so the first touch is the phone, and then you're asking them, you go a little bit about, here's what I've done in the past, I'd like to set up a time to drop by and chat briefly about my background so you can consider me the next time you have a job opening. So the second approach is by the phone, the third approach is in writing or email, and so we talk about people who have successfully contacted employers that way. The fourth of the 5 is informational interview. So you are reaching out, trying to connect with somebody within a company and scheduling a face-to-face interaction with them preferably, and you are interviewing them. It is not a job interview. You are going with very specific questions in mind, and you're looking for very specific kinds of information. But in doing that, you are making a connection with somebody within that company. And so then they know you. Sometimes if you've got very unique skill set, you might even become part of their strategic plan. And they might say, you know, I know we're going to be expanding. We got that grant that we've applied for. If we get that grant, then we're going to be expanding in this area. And I just had an informational interview with a guy that's got a skill set that would fit right in with that. So they don't have a job opening yet, but they might, in the near future, have something where that person would fit.
What's the motivation for the employer to take that time out of their busy day to grant someone an informational
yeah, what's in
interview?
it for them?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just the fact that people are willing to help other people out. You're not going to spend a long time with them. In fact, sometimes you say, I know how busy you are. Could you spare 15 or 20 minutes and answer a few questions and give me some advice? Sometimes people are willing to do that. It helps often if you have a name of somebody, and you can say, so-and-so suggested that I contact you, that you might be able to find the time to give me some information about this process. Yes, sir?
So, to piggyback on that and help answer that, if you have an interest area, it's more comfortable for those of us that have done cold calling or cold contacts before. But what's in it for people? You stroke their ego a little bit, and you offer to take them to lunch. You're out $8 or $10, and you learn about not only the company but their role within it, and how it sort of gives you a window of visibility into what opportunities might exist in their area or in those around their area.
Yeah, the take you to lunch kind of thing is a huge sell. Not everybody is in a position where they can do that. Be very strategic about which people you offer lunch to. We had there was a Launchpad person named Kathleen McCormick years ago. In fact, she came to a job club meeting a couple weeks ago, and Kathleen was laid off a long time ago from Freescale. And she came to talk to me, said she did not want to be a semiconductor engineer. She hadn't had fun there for a long time. What she really wanted to do, where her heart lay, where her passion was to be a water conservation engineer. And she said, I don't even know if I'm qualified to do that. I have a degree in chemistry. I've never worked in that field. I don't know if I have to get a certification. I don't know what I have to do to get hired there. And I said, well, I think you need some informational interviews. And so I gave her, from the Launchpad Job Club membership directory, I went through and found everybody in the membership directory that I knew was working for TCEQ, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, or Parks and Wildlife, or the Water Development Board, or LCRA, which manages the river. And so I gave her the names and contact information for all of those people. And these people had been unemployed. They'd been coming to these meetings, and now they were working. That is a wonderful resource for all of you, is to tap into Launchpad membership. And so she contacted every one of those people, and she said, I'm a brand new member of Launchpad Job Club, and Kathy suggested I contact you. I'm trying to see if I would be able to transition from being a semiconductor engineer to being a water conservation engineer. Could you possibly meet with me and give me some advice on that? Every single person she reached out to said yes. And it was because they remember what this feels like. And they were happy to help. And what you do at the end of an informational interview is to say, thank you so much for your time. Could you suggest somebody else that I might contact that could give me some additional information? Do you mind if I use your name in reaching out to that person? And so her network in that career field grew and grew and grew until she had, I cannot remember if she had 19 or 29 informational interviews, but it was more than anybody else I'd ever heard of. And eventually, one of the people she had met in that networking was a recruiter at TCEQ who called her up at home and said, we just posted a job that you ought to apply for. I think you're perfect for it. She did, and when she went to interview for that job, 2 of the 3 people on her interview panel were people that she had just informational interviewed. So, you know, it's a small world.
Kathy?
But,
Kathy,
yes.
can I help whoever would be interested in that process by providing messaging for it? Because like that's something that I can do. I can write the messaging and they can fill in the blanks.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sometimes
If
it
that would
helps to
help
have
you
a bit of a
guys.
script that you're comfortable with. And so stand up and tell everybody who you are and what's your name.
My name's Tim. I'm working on my elevator pitch right now. I wasn't planning on doing this.
But you can do messaging for other people, which is how it works.
Yeah, and that's kind of my sweet spot. I've done sales, marketing, advertising, and strategy for high tech for the past 10 years. I also have a separate career as a professional swim coach. But if I can help any of you with your communications work, at this point I've worked for Dull, Bizarre Voice, Funware, doing contract and full-time stuff. So contacting people for a first time when you have no idea who they are and they have no idea who you are, that's something that I can help you out with. Looking them up on LinkedIn, figuring out how to contact them and how to reach out to them, that's a skill set that I've got that I can help you out with.
That's great, and that's kind of how this group works anyway. Real quickly, let me just kind of walk you through this. I'm hoping that all of this is self-explanatory because we may not get all the way through it. Anybody who's looking for a job might be able to profit from an informational interview. Sometimes the best candidates are people who are new in town, you don't know anybody. And so it's like, could you give me some advice on how to, just be dumb, on how to find a job in Austin. I've only been able to identify 2 companies that I know of that might be able to use somebody like me. Could you suggest some others? Could you give me some names of some people? So just brainstorming sometimes can help. Anybody changing a career the way Kathleen did. People who have been in one company for a very long time and don't know a lot of other people. New graduates. Anybody who's starting a project that they've never done before, like you want to do a blog. Find somebody that's done a blog and say, could you give me some advice? Just a little bit of insight as to lessons learned through doing this. If you'd like to write a book, if you'd like to self-publish, find some people that have done that and ask them to give you a little bit of advice. Any kind of a project like that, but also sometimes just people that are within an organization. So there's that. And then I've given you a long list of people. You'll notice that in the number 2 thing, whom should you interview? The last thing says phone book. I had a client who was thinking, he was in sales and marketing, and he was thinking of, where are they going to be, what are the industries that are growing, what are the sectors that are growing, and he decided assisted living, home health care, taking care of elderly people. And almost all of the major assisted living centers are managed and owned by just a handful of corporations. And so if you make a sale to one of those companies, you've made a big sale. And so he was thinking that might be a good industry for him. He went down the phone book. He didn't know anybody in that industry. Went down the phone book to every assisted living place in Austin and talked to the director and said, I'm doing some research on your industry. I wonder if you could give me 30 minutes of your time to answer some questions and give me some information.
Go ahead and bring me the
And
thing.
they kept saying, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time. But he's sales and marketing. What does he care? He only needs one. And he finally found somebody that said, yeah, I can give you 30 minutes. And so he went there with his questions prepared and decided that was not the direction that he wanted to go. So you just need the information, and not everybody is going to be able to give it to you. Some will be readily forthcoming. Some will say, listen, I don't really have time to meet you. Why don't you call me at 6 o'clock and maybe I can give you some information over the phone. Fine, that would be great. So anyway, there's lots of different options. If you can set something up with the phone, that's fine. A letter followed up by a phone call, an email followed up by a phone call. But sometimes multiple touches before you can find somebody. LinkedIn can sometimes get you some folks. Usually people ask for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I would never ask anybody to spend more than 30 minutes, and that's on the outer edges of it. How do you prepare? Go in with a lot of background knowledge. Don't go into a company and say, so what do you do here? Do your research. research the company's website, any press releases, go do some background about, are they expanding, are they divesting themselves of subsidiaries, what's their product line, what's their services, what's their industry sector, who's their competition, just what's going on in the industry, what's legislation that might be impacting that industry, anything you can find out that just might be good background information. Research the person you're interviewing, know a little bit about their background if you possibly can. Write down your list of questions, and there's a pretty good list here, but I'm also going to tell you a few in a few minutes as well. What do you take with you? There's all sorts of things in addition to your questions. You can take your resume, of course. Sometimes if you're getting advice on your career direction, you can say, well, here's my resume, so you can see what I've done in the past. Here's my marketing plan, so you can see what I'm looking for now. One of the things we teach is a marketing plan in our classes, in our Monday morning classes, but you can look it up on the internet and create a marketing plan, but it helps you formalize what your skills are and where you feel you can make a contribution. So here's my resume, here's my marketing plan. I've only been able to identify a few companies that seem to provide the kinds of positions I'm looking for. Could you suggest any others? So those kinds of things are sometimes helpful to take. And if you're in a career field where you've created things, you've managed projects, you might want to take a real quick list of some of those and say, just to give you an idea of what I've done in the past, here's a real brief overview of that sort of stuff. And then what kinds of questions do you ask? And we've given you a short list of questions, but I also wanted to tell you a story. I told this story to my 72-year-old, and I'm not far from 72, and so when he was saying, nobody wants to hire me because I'm too old, and I'm like, a lot of it's how you present yourself. And so energy, what are your, are there certifications? Have you gotten, while you've been looking for a job, have you learned any new skills? Have you gotten any certifications? Have you gone online and taken some free courses? What have you done to improve your skill sets so that you're more marketable? It doesn't matter how old you are, but that kind of thing where you're constantly improving your product that you're selling, that's important. But anyway, so I told him this story. I read this 100 years ago, but I think it's so relevant. There was an executive that lost his job after many years with this company, was sort of at a loss as to how to go about job hunting, and so he went to his friends, other executives, went to lots of people, and had informational interviews, just the way this guy had. I just got laid off. Do you know of anything? Have you heard of any openings? And everybody said, boy, I hate to hear that you're looking, but I don't know of anything. I'll keep you in mind. If I hear something, I'll let you know. Nothing materialized from those interviews. And then after a long time of not being able to market himself, he went to his banker and he said, one of the things that I'm really good at is things like process improvement, strategic planning, problem solving. Do you know of any companies that could, are in a situation where they're stuck, or they could use somebody with that particular skill set, like somebody that's their businesses aren't as productive as they need to be or whatever? And the guy said, there are the young guys that bought out that sawmill, and they are now producing wood, I don't know what, and they have tons of orders, and they're not able to produce enough to fill the orders in a timely manner, so everything's back ordered and so forth, and so they're losing business because of it. You might want to go talk to them. And so he went to the sawmill guys and he said, so-and-so at the bank suggested I come talk to you. And he said, I worked for a long time coming up with solutions to business problems. I understand you got an inventory issue and an operational issue. He thought I might be able to work with you and come up with some ideas. And so if you go to somebody and you say, let me just give you a real quick overview. These are the kinds of problems that I solve. These are the ways that I feel that I could help somebody. I'm excellent at these things. do you know somebody that might be able to use somebody with those particular skills? If you can go and ask the right questions and present yourself in that way so that they visualize you. You know, when I approached Company A, I was able to go in there and help them get their ISO certification. That was part of my background. When I went to Company B, one of the problems that I was able to solve was those. So there are all those sorts of things. So at any rate, think about it. It doesn't help to just go and say, just generically, got any ideas? You have to help them focus and help them understand what it is that you do. And very quickly, there's some other specific questions that we give you that I think are pretty good. How do you close? If you said, can you give me 20 minutes? Your phone needs to signal 20 minutes and you need to be up thanking them and shaking their hands and say, thank you so much. I know you're really busy. This has been terrific. Could you suggest somebody else that I might contact? Exchange business cards. Ask them if it's okay to invite them to join you on LinkedIn. And keep them up to date. I talk to people all the time who say, yeah, I met with somebody. I spent a good long while with this person. I gave him some contacts. I never heard from them again. I don't know. Are they working? I'm curious. What happened to them? When somebody gives you their time, they've made an investment in you. And you need to connect with them and thank them, send them a thank you note after that, and then every so often check in with those people and say, I just wanted to let you know what's up. I've had a lot of, here's the actions that I've taken on your suggestions, and here's where I am now, and let them know what happened to you. And when you get a job, they were part of that success. So make sure that you let everybody that's helped you in that way.